My name is John Aguilar. I'm President and CEO of AXO Copper. And, for some of you guys who might be familiar, we're from the same group of founders and in-country expertise behind both Silver Tiger and Go Gold. So, for example, our executive chairman, Glenn Jessom, is also the CEO of Silver Tiger. So that's kind of the group in Mexico. We've been there for the past 25 years. So AXO Copper, just in the interest of time, I'm going to focus today's presentation on some news that we just announced about a month ago, which is the acquisition of a gold project in Sonora called San Antonio. So the history behind AXO Copper is, up until a month ago, we were solely focused on one high-grade copper exploration project in Jalisco State, which is on the west coast of Mexico. This copper exploration project was mined by artisanal miners up until 2022, and they were doing grades between 4 and 5% copper. But like small-scale miners in Mexico, they focus on what's directly in front of them and don't do any exploration. So our group and team saw the opportunity there with some uniquely high grades of copper and acquired the La Huerta project at the end of 2022. And then we did, kind of the first grassroots exploration in 2023. As a private company, we did a round of drilling in 2024, and then we IPO'd about 7 months ago, did a $10 million IPO. And again, the sole focus of that raise of $10 million was to drill the La Huerta copper exploration project. Now, in the background, as a company, what we were also looking for is, are there phenomenally good opportunities of very high quality projects in Mexico that have been, kind of shelved or not necessarily been in the spotlight or not looked at for the past number of years because the previous administration had President AMLO was in Mexico up until, October 2024. So when October 2024 came around and President Sheinbaum got elected into power in Mexico, we knew that permits were going to start flowing in Mexico for the first time in a number of years. Evidence of that, this past November, Silver Tiger got the first open pit mining permit in Mexico for the past 3 or 4 years. Right, so we were looking for opportunities like that, and that's when San Antonio came onto our radar as AXO. With the same in-country expertise, can we find something that is very high quality, that hasn't gotten a lot of love and hasn't been moved forward in the number of years, and let's try to surface value from that. So San Antonio, a month ago we announced that we're acquiring it from Osisko Development Corp. Osisko gets 9.9% of the stock up front to renegotiate a stream that was originally on the project. Osisko Royalties also gets 4.9%. But, to summarize the deal, we get on 2 new shareholders, which collectively own 15% of the company. We take on San Antonio and drive value for it going forward. Something really important to note about this deal, no cash up front. There's actually no cash payments until first production. And even then it's only, $2 million payments at first production and 50,000 ounce milestones. So it's all stock up front, which I think illustrates very well what everyone sees with this project is it's very high quality. Osisko Development wants to put it in our hands and take stock, and then they can ride the benefits alongside us upside. It's a lot more clean that way rather than a complete divestment from the project for Osisko. So about San Antonio, it was actually originally a copper heap leach mine about 10 years ago. The copper oxide was depleted. Osisko saw massive prospectivity for gold. They drilled for 1 year on it and put together a resource of 1.1 million ounces. That is contained within a high-grade oxide component of 0.8 grams and a high-grade sulfide component, all open pit, of 1.2 grams. So, we look at oxide heap leach of 0.8 grams per ton, has made money in virtually every gold price environment, as has, an open pit gold sulfide component of, almost 1.3 grams. So we acquired this project and what we're going to do is reinitiate the permitting process. So Osisko tried to permit it under President Obrador Lopez in 2021. When that wasn't going forward, they pulled the permit, and it's they stopped spending on it. And of course, their sole focus now has been turned to Caribou. but we're going to start reinvesting in the project, and most importantly, start the permitting process under our ownership and submit it to the new administration that's come under President Obrador Lopez. Also worth noting that we are in the state of Sonora, which is the same location that Silver Tiger, again, got their permit for the El Tigre mine. There's a lot of similarities here. Of course, an overlap in personnel between us and Silver Tiger, but also we're both in Sonora, and we're both brownfields past producing. We have the playbook. We're just going to reinitiate it again with San Antonio and surface value. So, excellent infrastructure already on site. It's like we're inheriting a mine that's 70% built. There's crushing facilities already there. There's a carbon and column plant. Really what has to be done is, we already have the water rights. We have a plant, crusher. There's already a camp on site. We just have to permit for the new area for the starter pit for this gold project, which is called Sapuchi. So the development going forward is, it's not we're not exactly rewriting anything here. You start with the high-grade oxide heap leach, and then that self-funds the development of a mill for the sulfides. And you can see why we're a little bit blessed here with San Antonio as a starter pit. So there you can see 3 cross sections. In the bottom left-hand corner, you don't have to be able to read it, but there's a deposit there called Sapuchi, and everything in purple is above a gram, and that's where predominantly all the oxides are. I'd love to be able to give you public disclosure, but the PEA isn't done yet, so I can't exactly just state to you guys what a strip ratio would be on that Sapuchi pit in the bottom left-hand corner. But you can see the deposit is basically just an anthill sticking its head out of the ground. That black outline at the bottom is the pit outline. You don't even really have to mine deep to get at it. It's like taking an anthill and just shaving it flat. That's why it's such an incredible opportunity. That's what Osisko saw when they picked up the project, and initially, it was the, I guess, quote unquote, safest, easiest way to cash flow early if you could get it permitted, was to start on that incredibly low strip, very high grade Sapuchi oxide deposit. And that's what we'd be starting with. And then it would in turn, self-fund the construction of a mill and build out the broader district of mining the other 2 deposits, Gulf of Oro and California, which are both high grade open pits. So I think Osisko would say the same thing we're saying, which is, Osisko didn't acquire a past-producing copper project and envision it as a gold project without seeing, massive prospectivity, right? Osisko's the ones who put together this first resource in 2021, and they did that off of acquiring a past-producing copper project. So why did they see so much gold there? Well, it's a massive gold brecciated system that has had, a lot of showings and a lot of historic drilling for gold, but with the original focus was on the copper heap leach component. No one had ever really looked to the gold, and no one had ever put together a resource on the gold until Osisko did in 2021. So we have 3 parallel trends that haven't really seen drilling. There's 7 kilometers of strike there being shown on the screen, and the deposits are only within about 1 to 1.5 kilometers of that. So there's a lot of upside here, and the path going forward here is get to cash flow as quickly as possible from that high-grade oxide heap leach component. And then when it comes time to build a mill for the sulfides, I imagine we'd hope to be dealing with a substantially larger resource than 1.1 million ounces, because, it's worth noting Osisko drilled for 1 year to put together that resource. They know there's a lot more gold there. We do as well. We can do the drilling. We have a few years in front of us until a production decision has to be made to build a sulfide mill. So you'd size the mill accordingly. And yeah, our opinion is that at the time, we'd be likely dealing with a substantially larger resource, and the mill would be sized accordingly. So, that's all I have for you guys. Kept it short and sweet, 10 minutes. You can come see us at the booth if you have any questions. Again, we also have the high-grade copper exploration project, but just in the interest of time, focus on San Antonio. So if you'd like more, just come by and see us. Thanks.